you all for joining us and for your commitment to protecting reproductive rights. Our Change Lab, now in its fourth semester, has taken on many different forms, but the ultimate goal remains the same: relaying medically accurate information, but also real and emotional stories about abortion and reproductive health to our campus and to the Evansville community. We want to make our voices heard and show that we do not stand for the restrictive actions being taken across the country. The posters that you saw outside were the first project this Change Lab undertook. The TikToks shown outside, which were taken down and the account was banned, were made by second semester students. The zines displayed outside were the final product of last semester's hard work. This semester, our Change Lab holds its first storytelling event to display how those in our community, as well as those across our nation, are affected by the overturning of Roe v. Wade, the subsequent restrictions put into place, and the overall disregard and lack of respect for women, their lives, and their rights. Once again, thank you for coming, and we hope you all love Monologue A as much as we did.
Exodus 21, verses 22 through 25 tell us, if people are fighting and they strike a pregnant woman so that there is a miscarriage, and yet no harm follows, the offender must pay whatever fine the husband demands and the court allows. But if there is serious injury to the woman, the punishment is life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, and bruise for bruise. Wait, so does that mean that the life of the woman has more value than the protection of the fetus? For centuries, people have debated what this passage means. But tonight we are not here to debate, we are here to listen. The stories you're about to hear are true. They come from books, from friends, from parents, from students, real people whose lives were shaped by abortion. Abortion is not a shameful secret. It is a normal, moral, and necessary part of healthcare and the human experience. These monologues are performed for you and for everybody who has ever had an abortion, or wanted one but was denied the right. For those who made their choice quietly, for those who had no choice at all, and for those who shouted their choice into the world. They are more than numbers, more than arguments, and more than headlines. They are people, and so are you.
I was born with a birth defect in my right hip, one that took 15 years worth of surgeries, procedures, and physical therapy, all to construct a hip which allowed me to walk without a cane. Because it's hereditary, any child I have runs the risk of going through the 15 years of hell that I experienced to get to this point. Further, if I were to gain weight during pregnancy, as normally happens, I would be putting myself at serious risk of further harming my hip. Because of this, I know that I do not want to have biological children. I refuse to run the risk of harming myself and a child, all for them to look a little more like me when options such as adoption exist. But because of the decisions of the justice system, I have to live with the fear that if I were to be impregnated, I would be forced to carry it to term. I would not have a choice in the matter. My doctors or my state may refuse my health care. My family may disown me. The rapist may have the convoluted belief that they have a say in what happens to my body just because they were able to force their way inside of it. How am I supposed to feel free when I have to fear my own coworkers? How am I supposed to feel safe when I can't even trust that my doctor will be able to take care of me? More and more states are leaning towards banning this life-saving medical procedure. More and more people are starting to look down on people who have had abortions or who are just pro-choice, because it's against their religion, because it's murder. Where has this dedication been while our living children have been dying in our schools due to a lack of discipline and gun control? Why does a fetus who doesn't even have fully developed lungs have more preventative safety laws in place for them than your neighbor's son? Where do you draw the line?
Please, someone listen to me. I don't want to die, are the words I had to beg on the emergency room floor as doctors circled around me. I had been turned away from my OBGYN after my second ectopic pregnancy. The first had taken an entire fallopian tube. I knew that this pregnancy was not viable, and I didn't want to put my life at risk, so when the doctors found a mass in my only remaining tube, I was desperate. My OBGYN ignored my fears, refusing to provide a medical abortion despite the fact that I lived in a state where abortion is legal. She worked to convince me that it was in her right to refuse, that it was illegal for me to insist that she perform a life-saving procedure that I was consenting to, all because there was a 1% chance the pregnancy was viable. It took me traveling nearly an hour away from home, jumping from emergency room to emergency room before I was able to get any amount of help. I lost my only remaining tube because of the waiting those doctors had put me through, and with it any dream I had of having my own biological children. Had I had the proper care as soon as I needed it, rather than having been lectured and moralized, I would still have that piece of me.
Abortion is murder. That's all there is to it. Pro-life is pro-woman.
Please, someone help me! I don't want to die!
I went with a friend to another state to get an abortion during college. It was closer than the one place in our state. She had been with an abusive partner since high school. She finally had the strength to leave him during our freshman year. Then she found out she was pregnant. I was raped 5 years later. I was too ashamed to get a Plan B pill. Thankfully, I was not pregnant.
Growing up trans in a place that barely had space for people like me, I learned early to stay quiet, stay small, and handle everything on my own. That silence didn't protect me when I needed care the most. When I started dating, we tried to be careful. My partner understood my gender, my body, my boundaries. We used protection, and I was on hormones that everyone around me assumed made pregnancy impossible. I thought so too, but bodies don't always follow clean rules, and testosterone isn't contraception. When I realized I was pregnant, I felt like I had stepped outside myself. I'd worked so hard to feel at home in my body, and suddenly, it felt like it had betrayed me. I wasn't out to everyone. Some people still refused to use my name. The idea of explaining any of this to my family or to local providers felt impossible. I couldn't be a parent. I was still fighting for my identity, trying to stay in school, and trying to stay safe. Continuing the pregnancy wasn't an option, but the local clinic had closed, and Florida no longer had accessible care. The center there collapsed under political pressure and shifting laws that made it impossible to operate. Everywhere I turned, I hit delays, refusals, or confusion about treating a trans patient. It was clear the system wasn't built for someone like me. I eventually found care, but getting there required secrecy, travel, and constant fear of being turned away. The procedure was safe, but the process left me feeling hollow. Afterward, I fell into a depression, not from regret, but from the isolation and the knowledge that so much of this suffering was avoidable. I still want a family someday, on my own terms. I'm grateful my life wasn't derailed, but I know it shouldn't have required navigating a collapsing system that treated my body and my identity as obstacles. I made the responsible choice for myself, yet the barriers around care reshaped everything.
My grandmother immigrated to Texas from Guatemala before I was born, and traditional beliefs surrounding abortion followed me wherever I went. I was told the same story over and over, that abortion was an act that was evil in and of itself, and nothing if not tremendously selfish. I wanted more than anything to hold on to the beliefs that tied me to my family, but when I got pregnant at 21, I felt that possibility slip away from me. I had my first son at 19, and despite the fact he was a surprise, I loved him more than anything. I knew that I would do anything for him, whatever it took to ensure that he got the love, care, and attention he deserved. With work to pay for medical bills from his birth alongside both me and my boyfriend completing our education, a second baby in just a year was out of the picture. Like 6 out of 10 women who have abortions, I felt I owed it to my first son for him to be my #1 priority. Living in Texas, I had to make one of the hardest decisions of my life. To find the means to travel across state lines, lie to my family, and make the 14-hour trip to Albuquerque. Already isolated, when I reached Albuquerque, I was met with fanatics at the door of Planned Parenthood.
Abortion is murder. You are a murderer.
I had the procedure simple and safe. I returned home knowing that my family couldn't know about the journey or the financial burden due to the abortion bans in my state. I also knew that I made the best decision possible to give my son the life he deserved.
I had been trying for so long. After years of infertility, I finally became pregnant. Then at 17 weeks, I learned the baby had a fatal neural tube defect. Her brain was developing outside of her skull. The doctors told us she would not survive to full term, and she would not survive outside the womb. People think that there's some kind of secret option, but there isn't. The medical procedure I needed to protect my health and my future fertility was an abortion, And because of Texas law, I couldn't get that done here. I had to leave my home, my doctors, and everything familiar just to get care. It is a different kind of pain to walk around visibly pregnant, knowing the fetus inside you will not survive. When I was finally able to get an abortion, I didn't feel regret, but I felt grief, relief, and love. The abortion saved my fertility and allowed me to get pregnant again and carry to term. It gave me the chance to heal and to try again. Abortion saved me, and it will save so many others.
I sometimes have intrusive thoughts about what would happen if I were to experience sexual violence and end up pregnant. Those thoughts echo in my head every time I lock my door at night or hesitate before saying yes to a social invitation. It's not paranoia, it's survival. Because in a world where abortion laws are stripped away, I no longer feel like my body belongs to me. I wonder what would happen if the unthinkable occurred. If someone took from me something I could never consent to. Would I be forced to carry the weight of that violence inside of me for 9 months? Would my government call that life while ignoring my living, breathing woman who didn't choose it? I feel the fear in the smallest decisions. The hesitation to dance too freely, to drink too much, to walk home alone. Because what would happen to my life if something unfortunately common, sexual assault, happened to me? I wouldn't be able to choose for myself. My autonomy would be a crime. And yet I am told to stay quiet. I am told that the law protects life.
Abortion is murder, that's all there is to it. Women should just be more careful. God has a plan.
But what about my life? What about my future, my safety, my right to heal? I wasn't sure to share this because I still feel some sort of shame or guilt. My family is traditional, and sex before marriage is not permitted. But I didn't care. And I decided to make my own responsible choice to have safe sex. I was on birth control, and we used condoms at first, but later on we didn't use them. We thought it would be okay because birth control is 99% effective. That's what I thought. I later realized I was pregnant. I thought I had done everything right, but it felt like the world around me was crumbling in. My family didn't even know I had a boyfriend. We're freshmen in college. How can I have a child? We knew becoming parents wasn't an option for us at the time, but we couldn't find abortion access in Indiana. So I went on the internet and I found whatever I could to cause a miscarriage. It ended up working, but it caused lasting issues for me that affected my future fertility. I fell into a deep depression because I felt I had lost a part of me. I know I want kids in the future. I know I want to be a mom. I have always known that. But I know becoming a mother right now, in comparison to the plan that I had, wasn't an option. I'm thankful that my pregnancy did not come to term. But if I was able to access safe abortion, my future chances of having a child on my own terms would not be reduced.
I sometimes find myself holding my breath when I think about what could happen if laws around reproductive health keep tightening. Even though I'm not sexually active, I rely on birth control to manage intense period pain and hormonal issues. But now, I worry that my access to it could be taken away simply because people assume birth control is only for sex. If the people in power get their way, my body might no longer belong to me. I imagine what it would feel like to be denied the care I need, to have my health dismissed, my autonomy ignored. I would be forced to navigate pain and medical complications without the tools that help me function. And all of this would happen while lawmakers claim they are protecting life without considering the life I already live. The one that needs care, respect, and choice. I feel it in the small moments, hesitating before asking my doctor for prescriptions, worrying about who can access my medical history, calculating the risk of standing up for my own health. Every time I take a pill to manage my body, I remind myself that choice is fragile, and that without it, survival itself is compromised. And yet, I am told to stay quiet. I am told that my health is a privilege and not a right.
Birth control is only for sex. You don't need it otherwise.
If you just managed your lifestyle, you wouldn't have these problems.
Your pain is not as important as a fetus.
But what about my life? What about my health, my autonomy, my ability to exist safely in my own body?
I was young and maybe more than a bit irresponsible as a teenager living in Texas. I fucked up. I fucked up in a way that changed both of our lives forever. I failed to get her a plan B on time. When my partner told me she was late for her period, I knew the steps. Focus on her, get her whatever she needs, buy her numerous pregnancy tests. Say what you want about my flippancy. I was the one who failed, not her. She knew we were too young to have children. She knew that when she had children, it wouldn't be this way. She had dreams before parenthood, dreams that would make her a better parent in the future. I was frantic, calling hotlines left and right to see where we might be able to find help in or around Texas. The trail was cold. There was nowhere for us to go except hundreds of miles away. The stress ripped me apart. The toll was world's worst on my partner. She began to self-medicate. It was the only option available for two students who couldn't afford to travel outside of the state. I still grapple with her decision to this day, since I'm the one who was late to pull out, or didn't get the pill in time, or whatever else I could have done to prevent what happened. It feels like she had to do this because of me. I can't get that out of my head, no matter how hard I try.
I was 22 years old and living on my own for the first time. No friends, no family close by, just me, trying to figure out how to start my life. And then I met someone. He made me feel seen and wanted. I thought he cared about me. I was so desperate to feel loved and accepted that I ignored the knots in my stomach, the moments that made me uncomfortable. He pressured me into things I didn't want to do, and I convinced myself that's just what love looked like. But then I got pregnant. And when I told him, he didn't hold me or ask how I felt. He laughed. He called me a whore. I had just started my career, finally feeling like I was building something for myself, and suddenly it all collapsed. He became cruel, then violent. I was scared for my life. And I knew I couldn't bring a child into that kind of world. I couldn't tie myself to him forever. I couldn't bring a baby into the world that was connected to him. I thought abortion was the best resolution. Not because I didn't value life, but because I valued survival. Because I needed to protect myself from a man who already decided that my body and my choices belonged to him.
You should have kept your legs closed.
Every life is sacred, no matter what.
Actions have consequences.
Please, someone understand. I didn't choose this out of hate. I chose it because I wanted to live.
It was 1968. I was 20 years old, a junior in college, when my roommate discovered she was unexpectedly pregnant. As anyone in her position might be, she was terrified. Abortion was illegal at the time, but she knew one thing was absolutely certain. She could not carry that pregnancy to term. She had dreams to pursue and a future still being built. She simply wasn't in the position to raise a child. Out of desperation, she sought out someone willing to perform an illegal back alley abortion. The procedure was risky, but she felt she had no other choice. Afterward, she went to stay with her boyfriend to rest and recover. Not long after, she began to bleed uncontrollably. Paralyzed by fear of legal consequences, she refused to seek medical help. Tragically, that decision would cost her her life. She was a bright, kind young woman with her whole future ahead of her. And she died because safe and legal options were out of her reach.
I love my son. I do.
I just want control over my own body.
Please, someone understand.
Why don't I get a say in the matter?
I'm terrified.
Please, someone help me! I don't want to die!
My country 'tis of the land of inequity, of thee I sing. Land where my mothers cried, fought, bled, and sacrificed for rights which we are now denied. Let freedom ring.
Access to abortion isn't just a choice. It's a chance to save a life. It's healthcare and it's freedom. Behind the statistics of abortion are real people and real stories. Impossible decisions in a world not made to support us in hard situations. The stories don't end here. They continue with our voices and our unrelenting belief to stand up for what we know is right, that abortion is normal and moral. Thankfully, in recent news, Virginia has rejected anti-abortion extremism. Abortion rights have won in New Jersey. GOP seat lost in Pennsylvania. Reproductive justice won in New York City. And California could potentially save us from a national ban. Democrats won over a dozen seats in the recent House elections, turning their slim majority into a one. That means abortion rights are going to be on the 2026 ballot. Virginia law requires a measure to pass the legislature twice before being put to voters, and the Right to Reproductive Freedom Amendment has already passed once. We hope you all will continue to fight for a future where every person has control over their own body and access to safe reproductive health care. Abortion is normal, and it is moral. Thank you.